Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Master Series session. We're going to give it another 30 seconds or so before we kind of kick things off while folks continue to jump into the meeting. We've got quite an agenda today, and I want to make sure that we give ourselves enough time to not only get through the content, but address everyone's questions and hopefully have a good dialogue. If you're new here, the Master Series is a community of Power Platform enthusiasts that's designed to share knowledge, resources, and success stories. Today's session is a review of many of the announcements that were made a couple weeks ago at the Power Platform Community Conference that was in Vegas. Just by a show of hands or maybe even thumbs up, how many of you were able to actually make it to the conference? Awesome. Um, so our speaker today really needs very little introduction. If you're already a part of the community, you're likely very much aware of April Dunnam. April is a cloud solution advocate here at Microsoft and a Power Platform evangelist. She's provides great content on her YouTube channel and LinkedIn, and I'll make sure that we post links to connect with April here in the chat. April has plenty to cover in today's session. And unless you have any pressing questions or comments, we're going to ask that you hold your questions to the end. We've set aside some time for Q&A during the last 10 to 15 minutes. However, if you do want to post any questions in the chat or the Q&A section of this webinar, we've got a team of folks that can address them in real time. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand things over to you, April.
Great, thank you. And thank you all for having me. Happy to be here to give a recap for everyone that could attend of some of the highlights from the Power Platform Conference. So as Jeffrey mentioned, we will have plenty of time at the end for questions, and we'll be watching the chat and have people answering questions there as well. So feel free to ask those as we go along. All right, so this year on the Power Platform Conference was actually the third year of the conference. So we've seen tremendous growth in the 3 years, and I've had the pleasure of going to each one of these conferences. So just taking a look at the numbers, just so you can get a feel for the scale of the event. We had over 6,000 attendees, 150 sessions, 24 workshops, and 38 roundtables. So there was plenty of sessions, and I think there was three keynotes, I believe, as well. So we had Charles kicking it off. He did a panel, or more like a fireside chat, with Trevor Noah, and we also had one with Ryan Cunningham and everyone. So no shortage of sessions and great content. So I want to focus on the kind of the highlights of the event and what was shared, but I kind of want to also give you all a feel for what the event was like, since if you couldn't make it in person. So I figured I would share this quick video here, which just is a recap of kind of the vibe of the conference. All right. Oops. Hold on. Sorry. Let me go back. Make sure that actually plays. There we go. Okay. Work with me. It worked fine earlier when we were testing it. And if not, we can skip ahead here. Let's see. It's a great recap video if it would just actually play. Okay, we'll give it one more go. All right, well, we'll come back to that, and I'll focus on some of the highlights here, since that is not wanting to cooperate today for whatever reason. So the main focus wise was really around how the tools are more powerful together, and how it really is a complete stack for the no code, low code, and pro code story. So that was kind of like the grounding factor, I think, in all of the main announcements that you'll see here in the kickoff. And not only is it kind of, should be no surprise to everyone that Copilot was a main theme of the conference as well, that we have here. So a lot of the announcements and things that we'll be going over are Copilot related, and how it helps tell that no code, low code, and pro code story amongst our Power Platform experiences. So theme wise, the messaging was really about how Copilot is transforming how you build and also what you build. So we'll take a look at, with this messaging in mind, some of the key announcements in Power Apps, Power Automate, and Copilot Studio. So we'll start with Power Automate in that land of things and see how it's kind of transforming how we automate. So the big thing here was really focused around multimodal capabilities. So traditionally, when we've worked with Copilot in these tools, it was very much text-based, right? So we put in a prompt, a text prompt, we get text back. Now they're really pushing the boundaries with these new generative AI models here to be able to not only interact with text, but with voice, images, and all of that, and video. So you'll start to see that in Power Automate Desktop with AI Recorder. So this is one of the big announcements and demos in the keynote here was now in public preview. We have multimodal desktop recording for Power Automate Desktop. So you can do what they're calling a show and tell type experience. So you bring up the AI recorder, you talk through your process that you're wanting to automate. Like I'm going to open up this Excel sheet and we're going to paste it into here and do that recording. It saves that as a video that it then goes and uses the generative AI model to be able to decipher what you did and be able to create the automation based off of that with this multimodal capability. Not only does it do that, but one of the really cool things that they were mentioning about this is it's self-healing. So as we know, working in the Power Platform lands, they change the UI of these tools quite a bit, and just UI in general change. So when that happens, does your process that you're automating break? Well, not anymore because it has this self-healing capability where it can actually adapt to those user interface changes. So a lot of this stuff is still in preview. So I have some videos here that I'm hoping this one will work, where we can kind of see. And if the videos don't work, that is going to be a problem because they worked great earlier here. And let me try to kind of resharing and see if that does anything to help matters a bit. So let me just try that really quick. See if I go back in presentation mode.
Hey,
Okay.
April, I don't know if this is a bandwidth issue either, just
I
in
mean,
case,
yeah.
considering how big of an audience we have right now.
Okay. It could be a bummer if I can't show, but we'll just give it one more try. Since we got a lot of people in here. I can always scroll through and talk through it like that. This since it won't just play on its own, that works too. So what they're showing here, thankfully I've got the demos for the most part memorized here, is in Power Automate Desktop they want to automate an Excel process. So they have all of these transactions and they need to go put this in a web app at the end of every week, right? So what they're going to do is instead of manually copying those over and pasting those into there line by line, they're going to use Power Automate Desktop and record with Copilot capabilities. So they're going to start the recording and just describe what they're doing. So you see the recorder initiating here and it's listening to what you're doing and recording your screen at the same time. So it's just going to talk through. I'm going to download this Excel spreadsheet from the website. We're going to open it up and I want to go into the surveys functionality of the website and line by line, I want to create a new item for each one of these. So we're going to talk through that and based off of that, it's going to save that as an automation, as a recording, and it's going to build this automation based off of that. So it took everything that we just told it that we want it to do and created all the actions for this automation for us. So there you go. There you can see kind of line by line is populating onto the web page, going through the rows. We can see how it's getting the different UI elements and passing that in here. And the automation kind of running now without any of our interaction. It's just doing it all by itself, downloading the Excel and doing all of that, copying, pasting over and submitting that into our web page there. So that's an example of kind of what we can do with AI Recorder, and that was a really big announcement there. And wow, these animations are killing me. Um, come on, man. Hold on. Sorry. Little clunky. I didn't realize how many animations were in here. Like got added last minute. Let me just turn these off really quick because that is annoying. Okay. All right. So let's play. So that's the AI recorder and how what we can do with that. The other big one is generative. Wow, what is going on? Sorry, generative actions. I'll just talk through that. So with this is if you ever heard of something called AI flows. And sorry, let me just do this so you can kind of at least see what I'm talking about here. This is AI flows, just kind of reimagined. So this is the ability to it's a completely different way of building an automation. So instead of the logic apps kind of backend infrastructure, this is using an LLM model to handle these automations and take instructions that you pass it in real time and evaluate those. And the LLM will do the reasoning, it will do the orchestration and the execution of the automation. So as you're seeing here, we can pass in some instructions and it can create the overall process for us to automate that. So all the guidelines and everything like that is there to restrict and kind of guide the large language model. And this can handle those complex conditions and really simplify some of those things like exceptions and loops and all of that you need with these generative actions. This is right now in early access preview. So they're showing some early bits of that, of kind of what it can do. It can paste in and get inputs and all of that. So this is another kind of really big announcement that they had. Okay, so let's keep moving on. Now, a lot of it was Copilot related, but that's not all that was announced from the Power Automate side of things. There have been hundreds of improvements behind the scenes in Power Automate. So you might notice the new designer and some of the capabilities that have been added to that. They've really been focusing on performance across the new designer. So they've seen the average load time and save time decrease by 50%. With some of the improvements that they made for performance behind the scenes. So that's one of the things, just small bug fixes and issues across the board with things like HTML formatting and all of that have really been top of mind. So some of the key improvements here, though, one with the new designer, being able to have two action panes in the designer side by side so that you can, if you're trying to do, say, two update items and you want to be able to do similar information, you can have those panels up side by side and really just kind of automate and build out your automation much faster. So that was one thing that they announced, and that is generally available. So you should see that inside of the new designer experience in Power Automate today. The other thing is Copilot Expression Assistant. So this was announced. It is in private preview right now, but this is giving us that Copilot based experience to write expressions. One of the kind of most complicated, I guess, things with the Power Automate and building these automations is knowing the expression language when we need to use that. So now we have this Copilot experience where we go into that FX button in an automation that we want to have an expression here, and you'll see this new panel where we can generate an expression with a Copilot. So we can just say what we want to do. Like if the item type equals dead box, then return this specific format. Otherwise, return just the PO number and it generates the expression and we can go apply that into the expression box for us. So that is in private preview and hopefully it will be rolling out fairly soon. So not only can we have Copilot help us build these automations, but really help us get into the weeds and help writing these expressions. And so those were the big, from the Power Automate side of the house, kind of the big updates, the AI recorder, and being able to use the multimodal capability, generative actions there, formerly known as AI flows, to do those automations, and some of these improvements to the designer experience that we saw there, like the Copilot expression assistant and all that. And this is a roadmap that was shared in Sandra's session. Some of the other things coming here is from the RPA side of the house, the cloud API automation, and governance and all of that. So really kind of where their thoughts are as far as things like generative actions and advanced multi-stage approvals coming down the line. And of course, all of the details of that is in the release planner as well. So you can see kind of when some of these things will hit. But this is a general overview. Now let's move into the Copilot Studio side of the house and talk about how this is transforming what we build. So with Copilot Studio, this has been generally available for a while now to be able to create and extend our own custom agents. So we can extend Microsoft 365 Copilot, create our own custom ones that we embed in our websites and our apps. Now, one of the things, so this is just like showing kind of a general demo, and this one, yeah, is working, yay, of what we can do here with instructions in a Copilot and being able to add all the knowledge. So not only knowledge from our files that we upload, but also SharePoint and Fabric and Dataverse and public websites and all of that. And add custom topics and custom actions inside of our Copilots as well to be able to extend and integrate with other services. So that's been around for a while, and again, like similar, it's been very text-based, right? But now we're kind of seeing those multimodal experiences, and more importantly, the main thing kind of talked about at the conference in the Copilot Studio side of the house is the ability for your Copilots to work in the background with Copilot agents. So agents is taking it from us being able to integrate with prompts to actually being able to have these do automation for us. So an agent is just a generative AI that assists us with these cognitive tasks, but we can not only chat, we can do complex situations, and I hope that this will play too. Like if not again, we'll just walk you through it, and I'll show you kind of what an agent looks like. All right, so we're building this McKinsey agent here. Let's see. Here we go. All right, so with the agent, we have different instructions that we would give it about what it should do. So this is really an agent for tracking client engagement requests via email. So that's because of the instructions. And then we can give it knowledge, just like we would a traditional Copilot or agent that we built. So we're going to give it some associated files here, a Word document for SIGGENT countries and engagement staff. And then we can have all of these actions, like we were talking about earlier, doing things like sending an email and calling all of these Power Automate processes to check engagement information, checking previous engagements, and all that. So we can add additional actions there. We can specify, and this is new and unique to agents, we can specify a trigger. So since these are going to run autonomously, they need some kind of trigger rather than us just initiating a text prompt to kick it off. Now the trigger can be when a new email arrives, this agent can kick off. And you can see all of the different types of triggers that we can have to kick off an agent. So now we kind of have this configured. We've given it some instructions of what we want to do and what should trigger it so we can do and run a test. So this is going to wait for the trigger, wait for an email to be received. So that's going there. And there you go. So now as that email is received, it's walking you through the process, similar to what we see in Power Automate. So it has the instructions here of what we want it to do with the incoming email to be able to get the start date and all of that and analyze that. And it's showing step by step what it's doing. It's calling those underlying flows to get the relevant information and sending the email and adding the engagement. And it walks you through its thought process along the way. To get the information, what it's did, it's followed the steps, it's sent an email, and then you have the output values of the action details and all of that. And then you can see a history of the runs of your agents. So you can see which ones are completed, which ones are currently in process, and see the kind of details of each one of these specific actions that the agent is running for you behind the scenes, all with just kind of describing what we want this to do and what should trigger it. All right, so that's kind of an example of what we can do with an agent. And along with that, so we can not only build our own custom agents, but we can bring these agents that we build to Microsoft 365 with agents with Microsoft 365 Copilot. So any agent that you build, you can integrate with Microsoft 365 Copilot, like this field support agent, where we can ask it questions and have it kick off processes and all of that. So it's all baked in and integrated there. All right, so that is agents, and this is again just showing you kind of what you can do with that. And your field service agent, you can build that experience natively too in Microsoft 365 Copilot as well. So you don't even have to leave the experience to build out your agents and all of that. Now, Power Apps, this is probably, some of the bigger announcements too that were made were in the Power Apps side of the house. So we'll get into that and talk a little bit as far as kind of how they were structuring and the main theme of the Power Apps announcements. It's really about building more with natural language, with this graphical building approach, with more AI components and building what they're calling intelligent applications. So how can we build the next generation of apps that are more intelligent and have all of this capability built in? So, kind of going from, just us, like a single developer building an application to where we kind of are now or have been for the past year or more with developers building alongside Copilot to developers and Copilot and these skilled agents being able to work together to build these solutions. So you'll see agents kind of all across the Power Platform, kind of redefining how we build and what we create. So we'll get into the big announcement here in a minute, but some of the other things that were announced for the Power Apps side of the house is co-authoring is finally generally available. So that is in Power Apps Studio. So more than one person, multiple people can be in an app at the same time to be able to see all of your changes in real time. So you'll see your icon there in the upper right-hand corner to see who's in the app and what they're doing, and you have commenting and all of that. So that is generally available for you all to use and take advantage of. Another big one that was really cool that you're seeing here is something called Smart Paste, which is in public preview. So this allows you to copy text from, say, an email or a document. In this case, we're copying text from this email about this update, and Copilot can automatically map all of this text into the appropriate fields in this form. So we're just going to do this paste to clipboard in this model-driven form right here. And you see it's taken all of the pieces of information from that block of text and automatically map that. So this is really cool when you think about those processes that we have when we're having to copy and paste stuff. I think this is just mind-blowing that we can do this kind of stuff with Copilot now in Power Apps. So it's just one example. I mean, I can think of 100 more examples where this would come in handy and be useful. And so you have the ability to kind of verify the suggestions and accept them all before you kind of apply that into all of your fields. So it can save a lot of time for data entry and a really big improvement for your maker, for your user experience there. And you don't have to do anything. It's just enabled there for you. The other really cool one is this Copilot search and filter capability that's also in public preview. So in this case, we're looking at a model-driven app. So imagine not having to do all of the complex filtering and searching. You can just put in a natural language query like this, and it can filter the data for you and search that. And you can expand on that. So you can keep saying, I want to filter showing all these houses that are high or low priority and created more than a week ago, and it will do that. And then we can add nested filters as well and expand on that. Now show me this, and it will just handle all that and do all of that filtering for you with Copilot. So that's baked in as well for you to start using, and it is in public preview. So really just making it easier and easier for the end user experience to be able to use the apps that we build in Power Apps. But now getting to the big flashy announcement here, and that is the Plan Designer. So Ryan Cunningham did a great demo of this in the keynote. So this is really, it's right now it is a private preview, but this is game changing. I hesitate to say that phrase too much. Sometimes it's overused, but I think this truly is one of those game changing moments. So this is an experience to be able to use agents to help us create user stories. And so not only user stories, user roles, but get requirements for an application or a process that we're trying to build. It does the data model. It creates the user experience and automations, and even gives us proactive insights. So it's called Plan Designer. And I was really hoping this one would actually play because there's lots of context behind the scenes. But if not, again, I can talk you through that. So scenario here, State Farm. So this kind of shows, it's a great demo because it shows the end-to-end story of all of these features that I talked about. So not only the Plan Designer, but the copy and paste capability. So this is showing right here, we have our model-driven app. And sorry about that. So we're going to open that up. and do a filter. So this is showing show only people in Washington, training and claim adjustment, and it's filtering that real time. And you can see how it can add another query onto that to show only the completed ones, and it just filtered that. So that is that Copilot assisted search and filter capability built in this model-driven app. And you see as I put in the query that it is right here putting in those filters and everything for me. Okay. So now the other one is the copy and paste, which we already kind of looked at in the screenshot, but just showing it real time how that works, copying the text, being able to accept the suggestions. But let's get into the plan designer capability now. So we want to build a new application here. So what we're going to do is use the same Copilot experience that we've had for a while. We're going to ask it to help this U.S. insurance company manage trainings for their network of reps across their jurisdiction and insurance category. And the thing that's different about this is, you'll notice that we can attach screenshots to what we're doing. So we can go and attach this screenshot of some of our onboarding process. And so that's a visual diagram. And then we can send that to Copilot. Now, instead of the traditional experience of it dumping us into an app, it's going to take us to this step first. It's going to design a plan for this solution, how it should be built. So first, based off of what you put in, it's going to state what your business problem is based off of your prompt. And it's going to do all of that user story generation. So it's going to say, here are the different roles that I see for the application that you have. It's going to take into account your reference architecture that you have there. So you might have an insurance rep, a training manager. Those are the main different roles for your application, a compliance officer. And if we look at the visual diagram here, it's suggesting all the different building blocks you need. This isn't no longer just a single Canvas application. This is much more. It's suggesting a Canvas application for the employee training, but also a training management model-driven app. Is going to suggest a compliance management model-driven app, Power Automate Flow for training notifications, a flow for compliance issues and for compliance reporting. So all of that, based off of simply what I put in, it was able to suggest a complete solution rather than just a single piece of the solution from the app side, along with all the corresponding data. So there's all of our user stories. There's the data it's suggesting from the structure-wise, all of these Dataverse tables that we would need to store this information for the training material, enrollment, session, training manager, and all of that, and the different user experiences we needed. So here's that diagram, the entity relationship diagram that we'd have in the traditional experience. We have complete control along the way to make any changes to that as we want. And then here are the different user experiences. So I can go into each one of these, click on that little information icon, and see what user role that applies to and what's going on there behind the scenes. So now if we take a look at, having it actually create some of the stuff for us, it can create this user kind of employee-based application for the training. So we see here, it can create not only the app, but unique designs for the app as well. So it's creating layouts dynamically based off of what you need for the app. And of course, we can use co-authoring and all of that to make changes to the app that it creates for us. So that's kind of what's going on behind the scenes. And then another thing they made sure to point out is the YAML capability to be able to see the code behind as well. So it's kind of a really great end-to-end demo of the modern, intelligent way of building applications with this plan designer capability, co-authoring, YAML integration, and copy and paste, and all of that. So really, truly changing kind of how we build applications, and even using Copilot with inside of a Power App to write Power Effects for you to do some of this color coding. So really great use case here. Okay. So what we just kind of saw there, just to break down, because the Plan Designer is a huge new feature and functionality. So let's really break down what it's doing behind the scenes. It's going to handle scenario and requirement definition. So you can put in a prompt. You can put in, like I said, your reference Visio diagrams, whatever reference background information you have for the needs and the business requirements for the application. And it can evaluate that and determine all those different user roles and the data that you need, and even screenshots of legacy apps you can put in there. If you're trying to modernize a legacy app, it can take that into account when it's doing these requirements definitions for you. The other thing it's doing is the data modeling. So, you have the actual requirements that you need to have with the plan, but then you need to be able to figure out how should this data be organized and structured. That's what it's doing behind the scenes with the Dataverse tables. So it's suggesting those relational databases and how they should be related, what columns should be included in there, and all of that to create that visual entity relationship diagram. It's also doing the solution architecture. So as I mentioned, going beyond just creating a Canvas application, but seeing what other bits and pieces you might need to really build out this holistic solution, whether you need model-driven apps for management or flows or anything like that to really be able to have a holistic solution there. And it's doing the app design. So taking it a step further, when we have used Copilot in the past to create Power Apps, we have a very standard look and feel design where we have the gallery on the left, the form on the right. This is even able to suggest unique screen layouts for us based off of the needs and the solutions, requirements, and all of that. So it can do that, kind of take it one layer deeper with app design. Now, this is I guess it's not even private preview, it's an early adopters program right now because it is so new. So I wanted to make sure to share this with everyone. If you are interested in getting into that early adopter program, you'll get early access to the features. They have weekly office hours and all of that. So you can scan that QR code or go to that AKA and get in on that program earlier there so you can kind of see what it's all about and get your hands on it earlier. And they did announce to at the conference when the next conference will be, and that will be in October. There we go, the animation play out here. Back in Vegas again. I guess that's hard to beat Vegas as far as space for people. October 28th or 30th, so a little later than it was last year in Las Vegas. So there's some detailed blog articles as well that dive into a lot of these things that I've covered. These are the high level, bigger announcements, but if you want to go a little bit deeper into any of those, there's a day one summary blog that's a really good overview of some of the kind of key announcements. If you want to dive in more into agents and what was announced there, that is a great blog. And then the Power Apps blog highlights all of those updates that we have there, is like the plan designer and all of that. So I wanted to make sure that you had those resources as well. So those are the main updates. Apologies that the videos, I don't know, bandwidth wise or whatever, just were not working with me today, but hopefully I was able to talk you through a lot of that there. And I don't know if we have any questions at all.
Yeah, folks, so feel free to come off mute. You do have the ability to do that. If you've got any questions for April or for the rest of the Microsoft team that's here to support you, we're happy to address those now. I know we've had some good conversation going on in the chat, so if we want to carry that any further, now's the time.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So this is amazing. First of all, like I was earlier trying to build a Power App. Now kind of using 10,000 things, and I'm pretty cool if this is do that planner where it does that. So for example, when you need to work with APIs, the planner will suggest like, hey, this is the part you use, or it would like help you build the agent.
I think that is the long-term plan. Yeah, so they didn't really allude to that much in the keynote there, but I think it would be able to suggest like different data, sources and things that you might use as well, potentially. I know like Dataverse being the core, where it's trying to dump the data, but I don't know if anyone else on the call has that level of insight into like support for other data sources or what right off the bat and what the timeline is for that, but that's my understanding.
That hasn't been communicated anywhere else internally, right? And for those that are familiar with the describe it to design it, right? It's always built solutions in Dataverse. So using any other data sources would be more of a manual add.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I have a question real quick. Is there a plan to incorporate testing or test studio? I know we have it for Canvas apps. I'm not sure what we have for model-driven apps.
That's a great question. I didn't hear anything announced at the conference about that. So I don't know if anything has been announced about the plans on that. Again, if anyone else heard something that I haven't heard that's on the call, feel free to speak up, but I don't think that's anything that's been announced yet. Okay, I don't know who was next.
Yeah.
Charles?
I
Yeah,
have-
sure. I had a question around as an engineer working with data sources from different areas, we run into delegation issues based on what data source you're coming from. How does Copilot help solve some of that with the dynamic searching and filtering? Or does it really just respect each data source's delegation problems, or is there anything that it's doing that would resolve some of that?
As far as I know, I don't think that there's anything unique that it's doing to resolve that. It's just kind of respecting like each data source's delegation. I mean, and then they're showing it in a model-driven app, so it's going to be Dataverse and whatever you can do there. So I again, I don't know. A lot of this is so new that I'm pretty sure that it's just respecting what you can do within Dataverse delegation-wise. But yeah, there's as someone pointed out in the chat, there should not be a lot of problems with delegation when you are using Dataverse, which is what they've been showing using that with. Okay, who's next? Feel free to come off mute.
I think I'm next. So you mentioned for AI Recorder, it has features for self-healing. I was actually thinking of it for this use case that we have around automating user acceptance test regression when we make UI changes. Wonder if it return some kind of failure message if it can't self-heal, and if I could use that to kind of automate will the users be able to figure out the UI changes or not?
That's a really good question. I didn't see if they called out like what that will actually look like, the self-healing capability. And I wish for some of these it'd be cool if we had the feature PMs and somebody used to go into the weeds with some of these questions, like what that experience look like, if you'll be able to accept it or if it'll just automatically do that or not. I wish I had a definitive answer for you.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right. Next question.
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
So the Copilot, what I am seeing in Power Apps is the chatbots. That's where the Copilot is. The Copilot Studio.
In where? Are you saying from
in
Power
Power
Apps?
Apps.
Yeah.
Power Apps.
There's a Copilot capability. So should be in the settings. So you can make an app Copilot. Let me see if I can get a screen open real quick and I can show you. Let me get my things moved over real quick. Just 1 second. Okay. So there's a few different integration pieces here, but one of the ones is the app Copilot. So if you go into your settings, you should see this Copilot tab right there, and you can associate it to a Copilot that you built in Copilot Studio, and that will show up from an end user perspective right here. So it's kind of tucked away in the toolbar, and they expand that, and that initiates the Copilot.
Okay, yeah, got it. Thank
you. Yeah, so that's one of them. There are a couple as well. So there's a Copilot control too that you can add into your app as well, and that can be bound to a Copilot Studio Copilot if you would like as well by putting in a bot schema name property.
Fine, got it.
Yep.
Next, cool. For everyone, real quick note for everyone that's there. I know we're not going to have all the answers to your questions, but we're really happy to receive them. This community is really designed to, in this call specifically, to kind of show you the features that are coming. And as we collect more information, we'll disseminate them via this community. So please look, keep the questions coming. We may not have all the answers, but we're certainly happy to receive them. We'll log them, and we will definitely get back to you as a community. So please, with the next hand.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Robert.
April. Thanks for the rundown. During the conference, you guys talked about having some pipeline experience for Copilot Studio. Just want to understand where are we on that and when is that coming out? And by the way, I love your background wall. It's cool.
Thank you. I don't, sorry, I feel like a broken record. I don't know the exact like when that's going to be released. I mean, I default to the release planner. Again, if anyone else knows off the top of their head, please let me know. But I just don't know off the top of my head when that, what the plans are for when that was going to be released. A lot to keep up with.
Okay, yeah, but will it be? I know that much that it's in private preview, but how would I sign? I mean, will you be sending that offline, like how to register for it?
Oh,
I
we could
think they
definitely
added
track
that
it down.
above. It's in a blog.
Okay.
Yeah, there was, I know there's a link in the deck to an agent's blog, and I think there might be a link in that. I have to double check. And I can reshare the slide too. Let me just, I'll put these in the chat too, so everyone has them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, next question.
Thanks, April, for the updates. So Satish here. I'm just checking to see, is Microsoft looking into something to find, especially for admins, like in any given environment or the tenant wide, make it easier to find the number of users that are using premium licenses. Right now, we are using PowerShell script to find out the users that are using premium licenses. But do you know if Microsoft can provide out of the box way to find out a report that the users are using premium licenses?
I'm not, I mean, I know they're making a lot of updates for the admin experience. I don't know if that's anything that's been communicated. I don't remember hearing anything from the Power Platform conference communicated on that. But I can definitely check and get back with you. Like that should, I would think that the admin
April.
portal. Yeah.
So this is Chris at Shaw Industries, and I monitor our premium license. There is a service that runs behind the scenes that can give users premium license. We've turned that off, but I monitor it through our admin and Azure license review. So I'm able to go into the admin. I have to get global access. So I'm requesting global access on a daily basis because security doesn't give that to me, but they'll give me requests for 2 or 8 hours. So I get that access. I go into the admin, go under license and billing, and it tells me exactly how many premium licenses we have. Now, when you look at per app users, if you're using that, it's a whole different way to calculate that, and that's more manual.
Thank you, Chris, for jumping in there.
Yeah, I'm another Chris as well. I use Azure Active Directory PowerShell to pull back all the users because we've got a multi-country organization. So they like to divvy up, who's paying for what, for Italy, Germany, the UK. So in this case, it pulls back all the licensed users, skims down to the individual license SKU that it's got and do it that way. Oh, perhaps.
Oh, thank you. Right, I think sorry, Isabella, your hand was up next.
Yes. Hello, April. Thank you a lot for this session. It's really great. I have a question regarding the licensing. How will these capabilities impact the licensing? Do you have already a view on this? Or is this at this point in time no additional cost for this?
I haven't seen any additional cost licensing things discussed. So I think it's included from the Power Apps Plan Designer, like in your premium licensing, for example. So unless someone heard differently, I haven't heard anything about extra costs for that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
It's great value. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for the question. Juan.
By any chance, you have any information related to the Now Assist and Copilot integration?
I don't. Again, I can, we got this all recorded, so I'll make sure to take note of all of these questions we have and, find the right answers and get back with everyone for that. But I unfortunately don't have any information handy. Okay. Tavia, you're next.
Hey, April.
Hey.
This is Tavia. So I had a quick question for you, and I'm going to throw you a softball. I was curious if you
Good, I
could
love
tell us,
softballs.
those of us that weren't there, what was your favorite big announcement that you heard? That's part one. And part two, what was the announcement that got the audience roaring the most? So they may be the same or maybe they're different. For those of us that weren't there, help us feel like we were. What were those two moments?
Great. Well, thank you for the question. I like those. I mean, it's hard. I think it might be the same. Like, I'm so much of a, Power Apps person. Like, that's kind of where I started a lot in Power Apps land. So I think the plan designer, from an audience standpoint, it seemed like it got the biggest response, from what I could tell. And I think it honestly might be kind of my favorite announcement just because of what capability it's unlocking. That's like the next big hurdle when building out solutions, right? Is that whole process of requirements gathering and architecting it out. So I mean, it's huge. I mean, there's a lot of great incremental improvements. Like I like some of the stuff they're announcing from Power Automate side of the house too. Just continual improvements to the new designer experience and being able to write expressions because, I mean, that can be painstaking at times. So that really got me excited as well. But I mean, I think that the plan designer just kind of brought the house down for sure. And it was new, like no one had really heard about it before. So, Daniel.
Yeah, I had a question for the private previews. If we sign up for those, how does that apply as far as our enterprise? Or will that be on a case-by-case basis? Like how many people in the enterprise will have that access? Or does each person need to submit a form separately?
That's good. I don't know. Does anyone, I don't know, Robert or Chris, not to put you on the spot, do you have any idea how those typically work? I think it's a case-by-case basis, but I'm not 100% sure how they handle it.
So yeah, no, the part of signing up for it just depends on the feature and the sign up, right? Private preview typically is a part of that agreement, comes with a lot of expectations of feedback. So it's very much an individual situation, right? Because we're doing this to get feedback, right? And see, how it's used and any challenges, right, that the customers run into. So there's a little bit of expectation of sharing, but I don't know if as far as the enterprise agreement and an additional, costs and stuff like that, again, it just comes down to the individual feature.
Okay. Because I got an invitation to the agents private preview. I just wasn't sure, do I need to send that to other people within my company if they also are going to want to preview that? Or is it on a...
Typically that is a tenant level kind of thing. So
Okay.
whoever's your administrator, if that's you, then
Yeah.
somebody'd have to have that conversation with the folks on the product side.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Got one more hand up there.
Hey, April, Sumit here.
Yeah.
Nice meeting here in the conference. Again,
Yeah.
I know we are focused on pretty much on app, but in the interest of recaps, I think there were a few announcement Patrick did on Copilot Studio, a kind of cube explaining all that and how that whole thing churns out. Is there any blog post which explains, or I did take a few screenshots, but are there these key keynotes being I mean, will that be shared, or are there any blog post from Fabric team explaining how the Copilot Studio will gonna work, or any information on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I know we're trying to see if figure out if keynotes or anything like that will be shared. So that's kind of up in the air at the moment. I'm not 100% sure about that. Blog posts, I'm sure there has to be one that I just missed because they're usually pretty good at putting something out. So I'll try to track it down and put a link in the chat.
Sure. Thank
for
you so
that.
much.
Yep. Edgar, you have a question?
Yeah, I know you were trying to play the videos earlier and they weren't working for you. Is there any way that can be put in the chat, or maybe like share the video in the chat?
Yeah, I'm sure I could figure that out.
Maybe,
How to
or
get
maybe a
them.
link or something.
Edgar, I'm going to work with
Yep.
April to gather all the assets and slides and everything, videos from today's conversation, and I'll make sure those get posted to the Master Series Hub. I'm going to talk about it here in just a little bit, but I'll go ahead and post a link to where those will be posted here in the chat right
Awesome.
now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And great call out by to check LinkedIn and use the hashtag. I think it's PPCC is the hashtag, because a lot of people were recording on some of the keynotes and stuff. So you can find a lot of good content on LinkedIn there too.
So I know with 10 minutes to go, we have just a couple of other things we want to cover off on before we wrap up. I want to thank April for presenting and fielding so much of the questions and answers. We have a few poll questions that I'm going to kick off just to get y'all's feedback on this session and also future sessions. So feel free to... Oh, this is interesting. They launched, that makes sense. The first one I launched is now in the back. I launched 4 different polls, so feel free to fill them out. A couple of them, the responses aren't shared. And then I think 2 of them around future topics for Power Platform Master Series sessions and whether or not you're looking at other AI-powered solutions within your business. Those are shared. But we'd love to just get some feedback from you guys and what you think, and also sort of understand what your level of knowledge is on the platform. Really helps us, key up follow-on conversations, help get you guys the information you need to be successful within your organizations and orchestrate all the right resources from our side at Microsoft to make sure you guys get the most out of the platform. So I'll let everyone fill out these polls for just a couple of minutes, and then I think Jeff is going to wrap up with some of announcements around future sessions that we have coming for Power Platform Master Series.
Yeah, thanks, David. So we've got a couple other sessions lined up. Again, I want to thank April for leading this session today. A lot of great content, and I know that we didn't have answers to everything, but that's because it's still very new to us as well. But I do want to talk about a couple of sessions that are coming up on October 23rd. We've got a session that's going to be focused on hyperautomation. And as we saw in today's session, there's a lot of new features coming to Power Automate. We will be discussing use cases and customer stories, and are in the process of actually bringing AT&T into the conversation to tell us how they've transformed their business with Power Automate. AT&T is considered one of the largest users of Power Automate, so we're eager to hear how they've changed their business using the Power Platform. And right now, this is slated for a 90-minute session, so feel free to sign up and go ahead and lock it into your calendars. Next, in mid-November, just before Ignite, we'll have a very highly requested session around enterprise-grade governance of the Power Platform. Microsoft drinks their own champagne when it comes to the platform, and we will have 2 representatives from Microsoft IT tell us how they manage their experience for more than 300,000 employees across roughly 45,000 environments. And they all tend to do this with a crew of less than 10 individuals. So make sure you register for this one as well, and mark it on your calendar for really a fantastic conversation around managing the Power Platform at scale. And the last thing I want to do is the Master Series finally has a website. This site is intended to be a one-stop shop for all things Power Platform, and we plan on maintaining and expanding its content and capabilities. On the Master Series Hub, you'll find links to upcoming sessions. So the ones that I just presented will also be there for you to sign up on. And there's also assets from the previous sessions as well. So I'll make sure that the recorded session from today is posted on there along with April's slides, and we'll try to get some of those videos out of her deck and post it on there as well. You know, go ahead and feel free to actually bookmark that site. There's also a link with a brief form in there that you can complete that will add you to any future communications that will come directly from the Master Series about any upcoming sessions or activities that we've got going on. And if you want to remain in the know, I definitely recommend signing up. And don't worry, you're not being added to a general Microsoft marketing. Since its inception, the Power Platform Master Series is really intended for the community and nothing more. So keep that in mind. That the hub is a continuous work in progress, and the site will be updated regularly. So check back often. Looks like Kevin, did you have another question before we wrap up?
I'm sorry about that. I raised my hand by mistake.
All good. Well, I appreciate everybody joining. April, again, thank you so much for this. We really got a lot of value out of it. And for those that weren't able to make it to the Power Platform Conference, I hope this was of benefit to you. Like I said, I will be posting the content to the Master Series Hub, so feel free to check back. And I should have it there by the end of the day, if not early tomorrow. So unless there's any other questions, thanks again, everybody, for joining. And we look forward to seeing you again on the 23rd.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, April. Thank you.
Thank you, April. Thank you.